The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Welcome to Open Door on the Arts. My name is Barbara Richer, and I will be your host for today's program and subsequent programs too, as we travel throughout the Capital District, discovering new and wonderful and exciting arts programs that exist all over this great area. This is a new program for me today, and I'm very excited about it, although I know that they have had some wonderful advertising done on this channel for separate programs that happen at this facility. It's only been open, I think, about a year, and we're going to be talking with Kristen Holler, who is the coordinator of volunteer efforts there, terrifically knowledgeable about this whole project. I guess I should tell you the name of it. It is called the Albany Barn, an incongruous name, and she'll explain how it became known as the Albany Barn. But it is a very exciting place. I was fortunate enough to just tour it, and I'm happy today to welcome Kristen Holler to an Open Door on the Arts, and I'm very excited about you talking to us about this program.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You've said that you were open for about a year. You've been open, I think?
Yes, so the Barn, which is call it a creative arts incubator, has been open since the first week of April of 2014. So just about a year, a little bit over. But Albany Barn, the organization, was incorporated in 2006. So we've been doing a lot of development and outreach to kind of get ready for this, grand opening.
Now the facility is just amazing. I was so lucky that you were my guide through the whole thing. And was some of this rehabbing going on during that beginning time, or were you all finished with the rehabbing and still working on it? When did that start?
So construction on the barn began in February of 2012, and actually it took a full year just to do the abatement. So the barn is located on 2nd Street in Albany in the former St. Joseph's Academy, which is a former Catholic school, opened in about 1904, closed as a school in the late 70s, and then operated briefly as part of the Albany Recreation Program, housing the Albany Boxing League and some basketball programs. So it had been vacant for the better part of 20 years. So there was a full year of just abatement to get rid of, lead, asbestos, all that kind of fun stuff. And from there,
I do know from our previous conversation that Mike Tyson used to train there, I was told, at one point.
It was always a rumor that Mike Tyson had trained at the boxing gym when it was there as part of Albany Boxing Program, and we actually found a photo of Mike Tyson
there training. How
in
interesting.
One of the rooms. So
this building has had many lives, starting as was it an elementary school or
It was K through 12, so a small school in terms of the numbers of students in each grade, but K through 12, and we've connected with a number of alumni who are really happy to see it sort of back in use. So that's been really great.
That's such a wonderful part of it, is when you can find a facility that's going to work for a new purpose, and you sort of can repurpose it eventually into, it's had so many different lives, but they've all incorporated being there for the benefit of people, whether it's children or adults or sports and now the arts.
I'm told that St. Joseph's had a very open door policy even when it was a school. So even folks who weren't students there were always welcomed, and the school really tried to do a lot to be a part of the community. And we've tried to take on that same mentality and being a true neighbor. That's
very lovely. Then it has very good vibrations and good karma for this venture. So, and you can explain that it's not actually, never was a barn, though.
No.
So where did that name come from?
So people do question that a lot. Where's there a barn in Albany?
In Albany.
Yeah, especially in downtown Albany. So the idea of the barn, the name the barn, really comes from this idea of a community coming together to raise a structure that ultimately would benefit everyone. So
barn raising.
A barn raising, absolutely. And that's really, we try to hold that model through, not just in construction, but in everything that we do. We really want it to be informed by the needs of our community, geographically speaking, as well as the artist community within the region. We want to be, responsive to their needs.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Can you, we'll keep going with the history, and then I'm dying to get to some of the facilities that you offer from, it's sort of from birth to death for an artist. They can come there and everything's available to them.
Absolutely. So I mentioned that people had this great connection with this St. Joseph's Academy and with this building. So there were a lot of hands in the preservation of, St. Joseph's Academy, which is, I guess, its original function. So it is on the National Register of Historic Places. So preservationists were heavily involved in making that happen. And so places like Historic Albany Foundation and the State Historic Preservation Office were very involved in making sure that this, historic place was preserved. And even through the redevelopment in its transition to becoming the barn, there was a lot of attention to keeping some of that historic detail. All of the apartments that are housed within the building have chalkboards that are original to the school, the old cubby closets, things like that. So there's that aspect that people get very excited about, that historic preservation. But then also the sort of saving of the building and the repurposing of the building was really informed by the Arbor Hill Neighborhood Plan, which was enacted in 2003 and came about after a good deal of community input. And one of the things that, it was this 800-pound gorilla of blight in the neighborhood, but that people all felt this very strong connection towards, and they wanted to save this building.
The building itself.
Yes.
The building itself.
And so one of the goal areas of the Arbor Hill Neighborhood Plan was to create a center for arts, culture, and heritage and connect the community to opportunities to experience arts, culture, and heritage. So that's really where this concept of bringing in artist housing and artist workspace, performance venue, where all of that kind of came from. And one of the leaders on that, strategic planning initiative for the neighborhood was the Albany Housing Authority, who are our partners in this project. So they administer the housing component, and they were really looking for sort of a creative partner in making this all happen, because while they loved the idea, it's not, a typical venture.
Right. And I want to be sure that we take long enough on each aspect of it, because it when you just say, and there's housing, and that's so much to take in. And you mentioned a little bit about the housing. I think it is so, if you can get anybody out there, get to their website at the end of the show, you'll see their website, and do go on and look, because the apartments are quite nice. And you're right, they have the blackboards, they have lockers, the lockers for closets and things. But the original intent of the building is there, but the apartments are very wonderful. Now, talk to me a little bit about how someone might look into the apartment situation if they were an artist looking to be a part of that piece of the business.
There's a two-part selection process for the live-work apartments, and there are 22 of them. There are 11 studios and 11 one-bedrooms. And if an artist was interested, the application is completed through our website at albanybarn.org. We take that in, and then we have convened a panel of volunteers, well-established regional artists, leaders of arts organizations, creative professionals, and just community stakeholders with an interest in this project, who volunteer their time to interview each of the applicants. And everybody is interviewed. It's the same 10 questions. The focus of the interview is really two-part. The first being that we'd really like to get a sense of what the person, the applicant, is striving to do artistically speaking. So we're not necessarily looking for folks who consider art a hobby, but those who really have aspirations to do art on a more professional level, so that we can help develop that. So that's the first part. The second part is really about that community engagement piece, that being a neighbor and how you make your art accessible to the community. And that looks a little bit different for everyone. There are folks who have come in and said, I know I want to teach kids how to paint or draw or write music. And then there are others who say, teaching is not for me, but I love to curate gallery exhibitions. I can really help bring other artists in and showcase their work. And both of those are equally important, just that exposure to the arts, whether it be active or passive.
So it's developing their own skills as an artist and talents, and then giving back
Absolutely.
to the community.
Part of the
Wonderful.
idea when we started talking about providing affordable quality housing to artists, there's a couple of reasons for doing that. Now, first, if an artist has to pay, whatever the standard average rent is in Albany market rate rent, they're likely going to have to work some sort of unrelated job. And all of that time working sort of takes away from their ability to dedicate to creating.
Right.
So when you allow them more time to create, the quality of their work improves, the consistency of their work improves, and then also they have opportunities, again, to do that interaction with the community, to expose the community to what they're doing.
Okay.
And so that was sort of a big part of why we wanted to look into doing housing instead of just a gallery or working space and have it sort of be all-encompassing. That's why we call it an incubator. It sort of takes care of those
everything
very basic needs, but also helps to grow the skills and talents and exposure for the people who live there, but also the aspirations of the community towards the arts.
So an artist may have this wonderful apartment, may be accepted into this program and have a place to work and hone their skills, but that's not the end of what you offer there. And you don't necessarily need to be living there in order to access some of the facilities.
Absolutely. So we do also offer WorkOnly Studios. And those, there's no interview process necessarily, but we do meet with each of the applicants just to get a sense of what they're going to be utilizing their studios for. And that really runs the gamut. We have some folks who utilize their space as a sort of retail outlet, some who use it as office space to offer client services. So we have a graphic designer, multimedia artists who do their client meetings in their spaces at the barn. And then we have folks who use it strictly as maker space. So those artists who are painters, sculptors, we have a textile designer. So they use their space really solely just for creating. And so we have spaces that are really flexible so that they can be used for this variety of purposes.
That's what was so interesting to me when we were walking around and looking at the spaces, which are beautifully designed and it looks like soundproofed and everything. But there were a drum set in one where clearly some people who are very interested in music are honing their skills as music, and you even suggested if there are young people in who are desiring to hone their skills and become a band of some kind, and parents don't want them practicing in the garage, that parents can actually rent rehearsal space for them. So these studios are set up for musical things. They're set up, there were wonderful art going on in some of them, and they're all quite private, but really very useful. I mean, there were amazing spaces.
It's great because you do have private space where you can kind of focus yourself and really do your own work, but then you have access to all of these other great creative minds. So a lot of collaboration sort of happens organically within the building. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I do want to talk about our musician suite. So we have rehearsal spaces for musicians, and I hear a lot from sort of older musicians who say, I really wanted to be a drummer, but my parents wouldn't buy me drums. So I picked up the guitar or the bass. I have young aspiring musicians myself, and as a parent, I think how great I can go and rent them a space for an hour or two very affordably and allow them to play on a drum kit and allow them to, play an electric guitar and, again, not have to have it necessarily, be in my home or in my garage. And it's a great space. We have a comfortable waiting area with Wi-Fi so parents can kind of hang out. It's a great space for lessons for folks who teach instrumental or vocal lessons. Great space for them to teach out of, so they don't have to teach out of their homes. And then also just, for bands who need a rehearsal space that's consistent. And we're able to offer really quality space that has, it's climate controlled, it's secure, there's access 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And they can pay less money for a higher quality space, and then also have access to additional services that are right in-house. So we have a full-service recording studio called Grandma's Studio, where they could record. We have in-house photographer, videographer, so all of those services that you would need if you were putting together an album or promoting an upcoming concert or series of events, all of those services are available right in-house. You don't have to travel around town or make the connections for yourself. And because of the collaboration that sort of happens organically, these different small business owners have gotten together and created great packages.
I would imagine.
So if you rehearse and you want to record and you want a video and you want album art done, you can get that all done in-house, and you can get it done really affordably. So it's a great resource for musicians.
I was very impressed with that possibility as we looked at these spaces. So really, whether you're a private artist who wants the privacy to just create, or as you say, the possibilities of moving beyond that privacy are amazing. And all of the facility really is quite lovely. Not just the studios, but the rest of the larger building, which also has many, many uses.
Absolutely. So we do have the existing stage from St. Joseph's Academy was completely refinished, but also, kept its historic character and details. So it's really lovely looking.
Yes, it is.
But is available for theatrical performances, for concerts, for rehearsals, for workshopping, dance, theater, music, all of those kinds of things. We do hold our dance and yoga classes on stage at the barn, and we do also have a gallery space that also works as a flex dance studio. So we really can accommodate all different kinds of art within our facilities because we sort of left the space as flexible as possible.
So if you wanted to do an art show, you maybe didn't live in the apartment, you maybe didn't have a rehearsal space, but you had a body of art that you wanted to show, or you and other people, they would be able to talk to you and do an art show there? Absolutely.
So we do exhibitions on a 6-week rotation. We open them on the first Friday of the month, and they close on the second Saturday of the month. So in May, we are doing a found object show or recycled art, and then our next show will open in July, and that will be an abstract exhibition, and then from there we do our Summer in the City Youth Talent exhibition. But we're in a great position right now because we have our gallery space at Stage 1. We're able to utilize the upper floor of the barn as an additional gallery space, and then we've also made great partnerships throughout the neighborhood. So the Albany County Historical Association operates King's Place on North Swan Street, which their third floor has a great gallery space. So we've been able to do a couple of solo exhibitions for some emerging artists in that space as well. And it also does a great thing for the community in that it creates this great sort of walking tour around the neighborhood of all of these different places where you can take in a variety of art. And we like to try to pair that with live music, with live demonstrations, things like that are of visual interest to people that kind of draw folks in, even if they don't think, oh, I'm going to go out and see an art exhibition tonight. It's something that's very eye-catching and interesting that brings people in.
That's very, very exciting to have the ability to include so much. Now, you mentioned Stage 1, and I want to just give a nod to that because it's a separate building. That's a separate building.
It is. So Stage 1 started as our headquarters. We really didn't want to wait until the barn was open to kind of parachute into the neighborhood. We really wanted an opportunity to make connections and to get feedback from the neighborhood before we opened, this great arts incubator that we were envisioning. So we opened up Stage 1. It's a great double storefront right on North Swan Street, and we started immediately curating visual art exhibitions and then bringing in workshops. So we've done spoken word workshops, we've done photography workshops, dance classes, and as well as community forums, community meetings, and just tried to really become an engaged member of the community. And so we opened that in 2009, and the original plan was that when we opened the barn, just because we have limited staffing resources, that we would kind of shutter stage one. But again, the community really loved that space. The kids were stopping in after school. They were getting used to going there for their painting classes. And so we really decided that it's not what we're looking to do, to have something open and then close in the neighborhood. We're really looking for lasting change in the community. So,
like St. Joseph's was for some years,
right. So we committed to keeping stage one open and really utilizing that for outreach for youth programming, specifically because of that great street level visibility. It works really well for youth programs.
So if I didn't live in the Arbor Hill area, but I wanted to come to an after-school art program or something, I'd still be able to register and come or attend, or how does that work?
Absolutely. All of our events are listed on our website, and most of our programs don't necessarily require that you pre-register, because we want it to really be accessible. And if you happen to be passing through or click on our website that day, we want you to come that day. So we try to really limit the barriers to participation. And so we do offer weekly a completely free kids painting class. We had an adult painting class as well. That session ended, so there will be a new one starting soon. We are doing yoga classes. We have dance classes for youth and adults. So all of those programs, you're able to drop in, you're able to pre-register. You can buy a package of classes if you'd like to, but you don't have to. So it's really very flexible. But our website is really a great tool to kind of find information about what's going on. So albanybarn.org on our calendar of events is a great place to find out what's going on, and then give us a call or an email, and any of our staff is really happy to talk about any of our programs.
And if people are interested in and coming by and seeing it, I found it so fascinating to hear about this history and to envision kids probably in uniforms coming into this school and going up through the years and then all of its different lives, and to see what you've created very thoughtfully. Your board, I can understand. I think you said we've been 10 years in the making.
Just about, almost 10 years.
So it was a lot of time with a lot of excellent input put into creating this, and I think the finished product, or the product at this point, I know you mentioned you wanted to do a little bit of soundproofing, not soundproofing so much, but in terms of theater things, too.
Some acoustic treatments.
Some acoustic treatments.
Yeah, we really did not envision the space being as popular for performances, at least not public performances, as it has been. It's a good problem to have, that there's more interest than anticipated.
Absolutely.
But we really thought of this being more of a workshopping space, for students or for people who were going to be putting on a production in another theater but needed that rehearsal space. But we've really found, within our first, I think, 6 months of operation, we had a small theater collective that came to us and said, we want to, have this sort of be our home base. We actually had a concert, on May 2nd, so less than a month after opening last year was our first concert, and we've had several concerts since then. We've done staged readings for a local author who was launching his first novel. Wonderful. So all of these different performances have happened, and in sort of having a year under our belts and seeing these different performances, one of the things we've really recognized is the need for some acoustic treatment, because there's these great big tall ceilings which are fabulous and beautiful, but without some acoustic treatment can make it a little bit echoey.
Right. But you're on that issue. So
that is one of our first initiatives of 2015. One of the things that we're looking to do.
It will totally be an arts incubator for every form of the arts. I can't even think of one that couldn't find a good reason to come, to see, to perhaps rent space, or to look into having an apartment, or to bring kids for programming stuff. It's a wonderful idea.
Even just for networking and think tanking, it's a great space. It's it kind of just exudes this creativity. There's so many different visions and different mediums all kind of happening simultaneously. That we host artist potlucks and chat nights. We've had website critiques and more traditional visual art critiques. All of those things where you just get these very creative, talented brains around a table, and everybody who's involved kind of takes something away and also brings something and gives something to somebody that they're sitting around the table with.
Well, I think that's key. It is a facility and a place that allows you to think out of the box. So if you're in almost any kind of a business or schooling situation, work situation, and you're looking for a meeting hall or a meeting space, I think the creativity that exudes from the walls would make it a good place to come for conferences.
Absolutely. We've hosted all kinds of professional meetings and different just sort of community forums. We were a site for the mayor's budget presentation. It's just a great gathering space.
It is.
And we strive so hard to make sure that people feel welcomed and know that this is a space for everyone.
For their community.
Right. That history of open doors and feeling welcomed is going to continue indefinitely, and that's a real goal of ours.
Now, one problem that stuck its head up in the very beginning, but I understand you've taken care of, is that parking became like you put this beautiful thing here and then, oh my gosh, where do we park?
We are in downtown Albany, and parking in any downtown is always a stretch. But again, because we've been so fortunate to be in a true community, in a true neighborhood, we have all these great resources. There's a local Elks Lodge and the Tenbrook Mansion that have great parking facilities that have sort of opened their gates to us and allowed our patrons to be able to utilize those. So it's been so key in making those relationships and really being a part of the neighborhood, so that when we're without a resource, we have a neighbor it's like the cup of sugar, that somebody will offer to us. And we feel the same when another organization needs a space for a meeting or to launch a program or to just fact find and get community input. We're happy to offer that space as well. So the door kind of swings both ways, and that's been really a true part of building not only the barn, but building community and building real relationships that'll last.
Now, you could park like right on the street in front of the building?
Yes, there's a fabulous amount of street parking, but it's always amazing to me how difficult that is to see, just driving through the neighborhood. When you don't see a parking lot, people get that initial, oh my gosh, where will I park? But there really is a tremendous amount of street parking. I will say save for Sunday mornings, because we are neighbors with quite a few churches.
At least three wonderful churches in the
Yes,
neighborhood.
Absolutely. So Sunday mornings are a bit of a challenge for parking, but we try to, arrange our programming around that so that we're not competing for parking, and we're not, so that we're doing things sort of in conjunction with other happenings in the neighborhood.
Kristen, we're just about out of time. Are there any things that we didn't touch on that you wanted to tell us about?
Well, I just think, we invite everybody, like I said, to go and visit our website to find out a little bit more about the organization. I feel like I talk about this to everybody I meet because I'm so excited to be a part of the project. But unfortunately, we're still a very well-kept secret. So I encourage anybody, who's watching to check out our website and tell a friend to do the same.
Absolutely.
On May 28th, you mentioned, keeping with the history of the building and the organization, we're doing an event called Throwback Thursday, which will be sort of a fun, an unpredictable homage to everybody's high school days. So if you want to come for a fun event and a series of performances, that'll be May 28th at 6 o'clock.
And it's called?
It's called Throwback Thursday.
Okay.
So it's on a Thursday
it's on the
evening.
website?
It is.
Okay. Kristen, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
I can just say to all of you that I know it's only been opened a year, and I just discovered it. I hope that this program helps you to discover it, and you'll find a way in your life to utilize it. The arts, remember, are the thing that keep us all young and on top of things and excited about life in general. So find a way to utilize this wonderful program, and I'll see you next time.